Do I introduce yourself, Michael, briefly? And then
I'm Michael, and I will also be leading this workshop.
cool. I guess we can wait a couple more minutes for everyone else to come in case they're a little bit late, and then we will get started. Visual Studio Code or Notepad++ before the meeting. In case you didn't, I can drop the links for the download. But we'll be using one of the two software. You can use one of the two softwares to create the project that we're going to be making today. How's everyone doing today? Feel free to drop it in chat or say it aloud. Lucas, sorry to hear you're not doing okay. Hopefully this workshop will kind of hype you up for the rest of the hackathon. Oh yeah, and then a quick note, in the Discord, if everyone wouldn't mind, could you please change your name, your Discord username to your actual name, or at least your nickname in the server, so that it's easy to tell who is who, if you wouldn't mind. That'd be very helpful. Cool. I think, Dia, do you have any, do you have Notepad++, or maybe just Notepad installed on your computer? Oh, cool. If you have a school computer, then Notepad++ should already be installed. Okay, cool. I guess we'll get started. um, it looks like, I don't know why, but Zoom doesn't allow me to share a desktop, so I'll kind of just be switching screens. What neat. Michael, do you want to get started?
Sure. All right. Hello, everyone. This is our workshop for HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is our first technical workshop of the hackathon. This workshop will be for beginners, like if you don't know anything about these languages, or if you know incredibly little about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you already know some of these languages, this workshop might not be too helpful, but you're welcome to stay around. We will have a handout for all the information after this workshop, so don't worry if you miss something or forget something. Some software you might want are Notepad++ or Visual Studio Code. These will be software to write your HTML code, and the links to them are in the chat. I could also send them again. If you are using a school computer from BSD 405, you should already have Notepad++ installed. So what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the standard language used to create web pages. Hypertext is text that links to other text. So for web pages, you can find links that go to other web pages. And that is also why links are called hyperlinks. A markup language is a language that is used to display text, images, and other content. HTML is used to display text, images, and stuff on a website. Next slide.
Sorry.
So to create an HTML file, you have to open your text editor like Notepad++, VS Code, and that stuff. You create a new file. You click File, Save As, go to the folder you want to save it in, and name it as your project name .html. Those last 5 characters, the file ending, are very important, and that's what lets your computer or the website know that it is an HTML file. If you want to see your website, you can find it in your File Explorer and open it with your browser like Google Chrome. So for HTML, there is something called the document object model. It is a tree of all the elements that make up an HTML page. The first few elements of this model are document, HTML, head, and body. You can see the code for it in the second image in the center. For line 1, those characters declare that this is HTML. There are also HTML tags, head tags, and body tags.
Cool. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And so now I'm going to just do a quick demo of what Nathan was just, sorry, Michael was just talking about. So I'll share my code screen. Can you guys see the code screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You can see it.
Cool. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can just use the, if you go into File and then New File, I think it should be pretty similar for using Notepad++. So just create a blank file, and then we can start by saving it. I'll save it to my Downloads folder, and I will call it index.html. Cool. And then I'll hit save. Looks like, okay, looks like I already have one. I'll just make another one. I'll just call it index.html. The name isn't super important. Cool. So now I have it saved, and as you can see, Visual Studio Code is considering it an HTML file with those little bracket thingies since I added the .html at the end. Next, as Michael mentioned, we need a special doc type, HTML, just so that whoever is parsing, whichever program is parsing this document knows that it is an HTML document. And next, we need the important HTML brackets. And we need our head and body. Cool. So if you have those programs open, please feel free to follow along because it'll eventually kind of lead up to the project we're making. Cool. And so then once you're ready, I guess maybe just let me know in the chat and then I can show you how to open it in Google Chrome. Or yeah, I'll be using Google Chrome, but I think it works in most search engines or browsers. So yeah. So once you're done, just maybe drop in the chat done or something. All you needed to do, I guess, is just to make a new file, save it as a .html, and then add doc type, HTML, head, and body. Right, I guess I will kind of move on. Okay, cool. So now I will show you. Cool. So this is just a new Google Chrome tab. And so then if I were to locate, if you open a new file explorer window, or in Mac it's called Finder, and then locate your file, and then if you drag it from Finder into the place where you type in the link in Google Chrome, then it will add the file path there, and then all you have to do is click enter. And if you're unable to drag it for some reason, you can always type file, colon, and then 2 slashes, and then the location on your computer. So on a Windows computer, it might be like something like C colon slash blah, 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 blah. On Mac, it'd be something like slash users slash your name, blah, 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 blah. The idea that REPL.it should work, I think, if you can figure out a way to open it on your computer. You can also try Notepad. I think that should work as well. It's going to be a little bit simpler of a program than Notepad++, but it should work as well. Cool. When everyone has the document open, I guess feel free to say done in chat, and then okay, cool. Would you guys like me to go back to? Would you guys like me to go back to the Visual Code window? Were you guys able to type everything down from there? Okay, sounds good. I guess one of the benefits of using Visual Studio Code over maybe Notepad or Notepad++ is that it sometimes auto-completes the tags for me, since it's kind of like a pretty intelligent editor. So if you have a chance, maybe installing this before some of our other workshops would be really helpful to kind of speed up your coding skills for the workshops and in general. Cool. Freya, so just make a new open Visual Studio, make a new file called index2.h, or sorry, not anything.h. Yeah, you can name it whatever you want. Just make sure you have the .html at the end, and then once you've done that, just copy down this stuff. So the doc type, which declares the document, and then our HTML tags, which hold our body and our head. So you'll want to just save it. So we'll hit Control S or Command S if you're using a Mac, and then yep, as Johan said. How do I type the head body thing? So just add your brackets and type head, and then your other bracket, and then have your I don't know which bracket that is, and then you need your slash and your head and your other one. Cool, I can just make a new file real quick. Just to show one more time. So new file, and then I'll hit Command S. Oh, okay. Let me see if all right, new file, I guess. Okay, I'll save it. And then I will call it cool app.html and hit save. For saving, okay. Okay, Vancia, can you still see everything? Can you still see all your code and everything? Are you still able to work on it? Are you still able to? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, Lucas, are you having trouble opening the file in Google Chrome? Oh, okay, cool. Here, okay, Vancy, are you able to edit the code though? Okay, cool. I think you might just be able to close the tab on the right side. I think maybe it says like welcome or something. I don't know. If you just click X on whatever little thingies on the right, it should close. Cool. So I'll just demonstrate how to open it one more time. And then I think we can kind of move forward because we don't want to spend too much time. Cool. So I will, cool. All right, so I'll just delete that. So what you want to do is go into a Finder window. I'm not sure if you guys can see my Finder window, but go into File Explorer Finder and then find your file. So in this case, it's index2.html, and then drag it. So hold and drag it out and drag it into the place where you type the URL for Google. And so then it should automatically drop it in there for you. And in case it doesn't, you can use you can type file : // and then the path to your file. So in File Explorer on Windows, it should be pretty easy. On the top bar, you can just select the file location, I believe. On Finder, I'm not exactly sure how to. Let me see if there's an easy way. Maybe if you do get info on Finder. So Lucas, were you able to open it? Was everyone able to open it? Freya, were you able to open it? Okay, cool. If you have any problems, I guess let us know in the chat. Yep, sounds good. So I found the file in my Finder. I'm not sure if you can see the Finder window or not. I guess it's kind of Zoom being dumb. So I found the file and then I drag it over to my Google Chrome window, and then I can just drop it, and then it's really easy to get the file location. And in case you can't, just type file : / / and then the location to your file. So for me, it's users Moishe downloads index2.html. For Windows, it might be something like C : sorry, backslash, I don't know, users, your name, downloads, I don't know, cool app.html or something like that. Okay, let us know when you're ready to go. Cool. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're gonna try to move on. I guess if something doesn't work, we can stay a little bit after to help you guys out. Here. All right, going back to the presentation. Take it away, Michael.
Now, in Moishe's code, you might have noticed that there were text enclosed in these angle brackets. The stuff in angle brackets are called tags, and tags are what enclose content in HTML. Usually, there will be an opening tag before the content and a closing tag after the content. The closing tag will have a slash in front of its text. At the bottom here, these images you can see on the left the syntax of a tag. In the red text, you can see the tags, the opening and closing tag. Between them, you have your content, and all this as a whole creates an element. While writing HTML code, it is best to indent tags that are inside each other to make your code easier to read. There is an analogy for tags, which is a sandwich. There is a big tag, which can represent like the bread. There are other tags which hold other tags, which can be another type of bread. And then the elements within all the tags are like the individual ingredients of the sandwich. There inside your head tag contains all the metadata of your web page. One kind is the title, which shows the name of the web page in your tab. It can also hold an icon and styling or CSS, which we will get to in the future.
Cool. So just real quick, I'll switch over to my code, and then we'll add, just as Michael mentioned, the title tag. Cool. So if everyone could go to their HTML page, and then in the head, type, click title, and then angle bracket, / title, and then angle bracket one more time. So for me, Visual Studio Code auto-completed it, so it's nice and easy, but feel free to type it out. And then inside the title, give your project a title. So in this case, we're making a little simple web page to make hospital cards for maybe employees to get, and then the hospital cards will have some information on them, like their name and which hospital they work at. So my project's title is called Hospital Card Maker. And I guess since everyone's following along, they should probably title it something similar to that. Okay, so I'll give everyone a little bit of time to add that tag. And then once you're ready, make sure to save it with Command S on Mac or Control S on Windows, so that you saved your file. And then once you've saved your file, you can come over to your browser window where you have it open. And then all you have to do is reload. And now, as you can see, the title of my webpage has changed to Hospital Card Maker. It was easy as that. Okay. Did you make sure to put it in head? And did you make sure to use the proper titles, the proper tag beginning and endings?
You might need to reload your web page after every. Oh, Miles, did you reload?
Did you make sure to save the file after you edited it? Interesting. Okay. That is weird. Okay. Yeah, let me show the code again. Lucas, what are you struggling with in terms of yep, that's what my code looks like. Interesting. Lucas, I guess, yeah, make sure just like triple, quadruple check that the file path is right, I guess. Do you make sure to okay, cool. Not exactly sure. It might just be slightly different versions of Google Chrome or something. I guess this part isn't super important. Maybe it just takes a little bit of time. I don't really know why. I guess this isn't the most vital part of this project, so I guess we'll try to keep moving. But Lucas, were you able to open it?
Yeah, after every edit of the web page, you need to save it, and then you need to reload it in your browser to see your edits.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Miles, make sure you're still opening, make sure you're opening the file, the new name of the file, I guess, so that you're getting the most recent file. Hmm. Okay, I guess Lucas, just try to keep up with the code we write up, and then after the meeting, we can figure it out for you. If you double click the file to open it, oh yeah, that might be a good way to open it actually. If you right click on the file and say open with Google Chrome, but double clicking it will just open it with the default opening system. So if it's Google Chrome, it will open it with Google Chrome. If your default opener is maybe Notepad, then yeah. So if double clicking doesn't get it on Google Chrome, try right clicking it and then open with Google Chrome. Cool. We're gonna try to keep moving.
All right, now that you've hopefully put your title in your head, we can move on to the body, which contains all the actual content. In the body, there are many types of tags too, and here are some of them. There is the P tag, which contains paragraph or plain text. There is a heading tag. Inside the heading, you put H and a number from 1 to 6. For example, H1, H2, and so on. These contain headings, and the lower the number is, the larger the font size will be. There's also the the BR tag, which is a line break, and it has no closing tag. There is the image tag, which also has no closing tag, and we can display images with it. There is the A tag, which has links, the div tag, which is a division. It is used to contain other tags and is useful for formatting. There is also the script tag, which contains JavaScript code, and we will get to that later.
Cool. Okay. Oh shoot. I'll go back for a sec. Cool. So I'll switch back to my code. So that was kind of a brief overview of a lot of different tags. And so now we're going to try to implement some of those tags. So if you go to the body, I guess I'll take it one tag at a time so you can kind of swap between Zoom and your own file. So I'll start with my H1 tag. And in my H1 tag, I'll put name, colon. And so that's just going to be the place where it says name. Pretty simple. I can hit Command S to save and then go back to my Google Chrome and reload it. And I should see just a big heading that says name. Yeah, give maybe like 30 seconds to just quickly add that to your code. Oh, that is weird. Fancy, did you make sure to title it something.html? Yeah, it doesn't really matter if there's extra spaces. Yep, indentations don't matter. But I guess good programming standard is to put tabs whenever you have like a new element, when you have an element inside of another element. So for example, I tabbed my H1 in from my body. Okay, cool. I'll try and move on to the next tag. So the next one, just to demo, kind of changing sizes, we'll add an H or tag with that says hospital over like hospital. And so then again, I can save, go over to my Google Chrome and reload, and I should see name, and then under that, hospital over Lake Hospital. So this worker will be working at Over Lake Hospital. Okay.
What is the difference between H1 and H4?
Just size. So
okay.
H1, yeah.
Okay.
So it ranges from 1 to 6. 1 is the largest, 6 is the smallest.
Okay.
Thanks
Are
for
there
the
any
question.
other font sizes other than those 6, or are those the only 6 you can choose?
Yeah. So with CSS, which we'll cover later, we can actually just customize our font to be any size we want.
Okay.
Cool. And then under that, we'll add a P tag, which is just a plain text, and it's even smaller than our headings. And we'll give the worker an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Save and reload. The P is just for plain text or paragraph. Not really sure what I think it stands for paragraph. It's just normal text. I don't know. Yeah, just like yeah, just the most basic text. Cool. And then under that, we'll add an A tag, which is a link to another web page. And so the thing with A tags is that you need something within the A tag in order for the link to actually show up. So in the A tag, the content of it will put a P tag, just a normal paragraph. And then we'll type in check in at the hospital if you're not feeling well. And so that's a pretty simple link. So eventually we'll add a link to this A tag, which will, when the user clicks on this check in at the hospital if you're not feeling well, they'll be redirected to the link of our hospital, which we'll add later. And additionally, another cool thing we can do is actually add an image. We can really add anything between these A tags and create a link. So in this case, I'll create an image. And an image only has one tag. So we need to make sure we add this / at the end. And so then again, later we'll add the source to our image, which is just which image do we want to display. So if we reload, check in at the hospital, we should have a bunch of text of varying sizes on our screen now. Cool. I guess I'll just paste the code in case anyone is falling a little bit behind, they can just copy it in because we're going to try to keep moving a little bit quicker now. Oh yeah, I'll just show the browser real quick and then we'll keep moving. Cool. So I have my name, hospital ID, and check in at the hospital. Cool. All right, let's try to keep moving forward, I guess.
Another thing that is important are attributes. You can think of attributes as properties of HTML elements. In Moishe's example, you might have noticed that the text in the link, it did not actually link to anywhere, and that the image did not show up. There was no image. You need attributes for these to happen. In the link, you put after the opening tag. In the opening tag, after the space, you type href equals, and then in quotes, in double quotes, put your URL. To have your image tag show something, in the tag after img, put src equals, and then in double quotes, your URL. There are also class and ID attributes in any tag. We will cover these later, but they can be used to help with formatting and interaction with JavaScript.
Yep. Okay, cool. So thanks for the introduction to attributes. So now let's add some attributes to our code. So as Michael mentioned, we obviously want our link to actually go somewhere. So I'll add my href attribute, href equals double quote. And then I found a link to Overlake Hospital. So I'll just add that and I will add it to chat. So everybody can add a link. Cool. So the A tag is a link to a web page, to another web page. So only the A tag, or very few tags. There might be a couple more other than the A, which have this href, but I think it's just A, which actually allow us to go somewhere else from our web page. So if I wanted to go to Amazon, I could add Amazon here, but in this case, I want to be a little more helpful, and I want to lead the people to my to the hospital. Cool. So if we save and then we reload, if we save and reload, then you should see a link here that if I can open it in a new tab, and here I am at Overlake Hospital. And then the link to the presentation will be given, as well as like a sheet with all the concepts. Oh, am I not? Oh, okay. I didn't show the browser, my bad. Okay, cool. So now we should see that it's purple text, which means it's a link. If I right click and open link in new tab, I will find that I am at overlakehospital.org, which is exactly where we wanted to go. Cool. And so now we want to add an image to our thing. So I will look up Overlake Hospital images. And so then I can just go to my friendly Google Chrome. And then select maybe this image. And then what I can do is, if I right click on it, I can say, open image in new tab. And so what we have right here currently is like a full HTML web page that Google has made with this image inside of it. But what I need is just the image. Okay, so this one is a little bit weird, I guess. Here, let me try to. Oh wait, did I click on? Oh shoot. Okay, so it's not open image in new tab. It's copy image address. And so then if we open a new tab and we paste copy image.address, or sorry, if we open the image address, we notice that it actually ends in JPEG. It doesn't end in HTML, it ends in JPEG or PNG, depending on the type of image. And so this means that when we ask whoever's image it is, so in this case, UniCoprop, it's actually just giving us an image and not a web page. And so then we can actually take this link, so the link to the image, and we can go back to our code. Can everyone see the code?
We can't see the code.
Oh, okay. Cool. Now you can see it, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And so we can add source equals the link and surrounded by double quotes. And so now what we can do, make sure we saved it. And then we can, I'll share my Google Chrome. I can go back to my hospital card maker.
We can't. You can't see the browser.
Okay. Cool. Now I can see the browser, and as you can see, we've got our immense image here. Cool. And then Yeah, sure. Here's that, and then I'll just put all my code in to the chat again in case any of you are falling behind a little bit. Here's that, and then here's the link to the image. All right, so here's the code. I put it in chat as well. We'll try to keep moving. Cool. So feel free to just copy the code from the chat and then save and reload your web page to make sure it looks good. And then, yeah.
Now we can move on from HTML into CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It is used to style a web page and to make it look nice. At the bottom, you have two images. On the right is DuckDuckGo without any CSS. And on the left, there is CSS. So on the left, it looks a lot better, and those are the abilities of CSS. To add CSS to your web page, you go within the head tags and add style tags. Please wait a bit if you want to see our example.
Should I add the style tags real quick, or do you want to just cover the selectors?
Next slide.
Oh, okay, cool.
In CSS, there are things called selectors. One type of selector is an HTML tag. It just selects a tag to a style, for example, p or div. You can also select classes, which are denoted with a period in front, and IDs, which are denoted with a pound sign in front. You can select multiple elements by adding commas. In the bottom right, you have this syntax of CSS. There is a selector in that image. This will be selecting P, the P tag. You have curly braces, and then within the curly braces, you have color, which is the property, colon, red, which is the property value, and then a semicolon. In CSS, you have to end each property with a semicolon. Now, what the code in the image will do is it takes all the P tags in your HTML code and it colors them red.
It just makes the text red. Cool.
Now there are a ton of CSS properties. In the previous slide, there was color, but there are also width, height, margin and padding, border, and font size. There are many more, but these few are the most common ones. When coding in CSS, you have to follow the CSS box model. Almost all HTML elements follow this model. Right in the middle is all of your content. Around the content is the padding, which has the same properties as the content. You can add borders around your content, and then on the far outside, you have the margin, which spaces your elements and has different properties.
Cool. Thanks, Michael. So now we're going to add some CSS to our page to make it look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to hop over to my code, and then in the head tag, as Michael mentioned, we need to add our style tags. And then inside these style tags, the browser is actually going to parse out CSS instead of HTML. So inside style tags, something like H1 isn't going to work anymore. Now we actually need to use CSS language. So we need to use the conventions of CSS. So once you have those style tags, the first style we can add is on the body. So this will turn the entire body. We'll change something for the entire body. And in this case, we want to change background color. So as you can see with Visual Studio, it gives me a bunch of different options for CSS properties to change. And I'll just start with background color. And again, it gave me some colors. I'll just give it aqua. So there are some built-in colors that every browser knows, but if we want to add our own colors, we can also type in the hex value, I believe. But for now, we'll just keep it simple and use a built-in color called aqua. And so when you go back, if you save your document and you go back to your web page, you'll notice that the background should all be blue. So as you can see, we have the text we had before. Oops, keep clicking on the image. And we also have a blue background. I'll go back to the code. Cool. And so then another thing we can add is we'd like to change maybe the font. Right now the font is it looks kind of old. So we'll try to modernize the font. And so we'll add, and in this case, we can actually select multiple tags. So we'll select H1, H2, and H4. And then inside here, we can say font family. Font family. And then it gives me a drop down as well. So in this case, we actually need 3 values to specify for font family. In background color, we just needed 1 color. But here we can specify 3 different values, which represent kind of 3 different aspects of our font. I'm not going to get into that. I don't actually know a lot about this, but we just need to have 3 different things for font family. So in this case, Arial, Helvetica, and Sans Serif. And so then when we reload our page, you'll notice that our headings at the top have now changed to have and they don't have those little thingies, those little serifs on the bottom. Oh. Okay, so Johan added a little bit of context for the font family and why we need so many different things there. Cool. Next, we'll we can make our image a little bit smaller. So we'll add image, and then I'll do width. And here we can specify a lot of different ways to specify what the width of the image should be. But in this case, I'll just give it in terms of pixels, and I'll make it 150 pixels. And then I can save and reload it over there. Cool. And then additionally, I can make my H1, I can maybe change the color of it to make sure that it catches the eye of the user and they know it's the name. So I can change color to be coral. Again, I can save and then reload, and it should show the color. And then I forgot to add something in the HTML. So I'll add an H2, and then here I'll just add kind of a bunch of dashes to represent where we'll eventually add the name of the person. So then when I reload, oh shoot. Okay, Freya, we're a little bit rushed on time, so I guess I'll just give you the code I have right now. I believe it should be working. And it has the link thing. Oh yeah, let me show the browser. Cool, and so now I have a much smaller image. I have orange text up here, and all of these, all of this should be in a new font. So my P font is still kind of the old font. And so additionally, I'll add an attribute here that I forgot to add earlier. I'll give it an ID. So an ID makes it a lot easier to select stuff with CSS, and IDs should only be given to one single item. So one ID should only be given to one item. So for example, it'd be in very bad practice to give multiple items ID of name. In that case, we'd want to use a class. So if we wanted to select both this P tag and the bottom P tag, we could give them both a class of P tags, even though that's not super helpful, I guess. Maybe we'll give it to the H4 tag.
Moishe, can you show your code?
Oh, shoot, sorry. Shoot, okay. Zoom is not cooperating with us. Cool. So I added an ID tag to my H2, and so it would be in bad practice to add it to here as well. We only want our ID tag to be on one element, the same ID tag to be on one element. And then, but for a class, we can add it to multiple, and then in our CSS, we can use that class with dot and then the class name, P tags, and then we can add some CSS here. Additionally, we can use the ID, so hashtag ID name, so hashtag name, and we can add something here. So feel free to add whatever CSS properties you'd like here, and then, yeah. So now we're getting quite a bit of code. Yeah. I guess we can move forward a bit. Okay, cool. I guess we will try to move forward. I will add the code to the chat.
Okay. Now, once we've gotten the basics of CSS, we can go to JavaScript. JavaScript is the main programming language used on websites. It helps bring functionality to your web page. You can make things move, make things change color, send data to a server, modify the HTML structure, and listen for events like key presses, mouse presses, and more. JavaScript is very complicated, so for this workshop, we will be going over some very basic things. In JavaScript, there are variables. Variables are used to hold values. A value can be a number, a string, a Boolean, like true or false, and also objects and functions, which are more complicated. Furthermore, there are JavaScript functions. Functions are pieces of code that actually do something. The syntax for creating functions is shown there on the screen, and JavaScript has built-in functions to make your life easier. One specific type of function we will focus on are called callbacks. These functions react to events that are triggered by elements, the document, and the user. For example, clicking, hovering over something, loading something, and more. They are called callbacks because the function is essentially given to the HTML element earlier, and then the HTML element calls back the function to run when it needs to, such as when you click something.
Oh, okay, cool. So now we'll add a bit of JavaScript to our code to make it a little bit more interesting, and so that something actually happens in our code when the user interacts with it. Before then, though, we'll need to add a little bit more HTML. First, we'll add an input, and then next we'll add a button. And we need the button. We need the input in order for the user to be able to input whatever name they want. And then we need the button in order to have, in order to run our JavaScript when we want to. And so in this button, I'll just have the text submit. In good practice, I'll add b tags. Cool. And so then in the button, first I guess I will add my script. So script, JavaScript is typically added to in several places, but one of the common places is to add it at the bottom of our body. And so here now, again, much like the CSS, the browser is no longer parsing this area for HTML. So something like body or div isn't going to work so well. See, it's giving me underlined red. Rather, it's parsing for JavaScript. So here, var something something would work. Well, it would work. But something like HTML or CSS would not. So here, okay, so essentially the goal of this JavaScript is when the button is clicked. First, I guess I'll save it and just show you guys what it looks like, what it should look like when I reload. So when I reload, I have an input where I can type some stuff in, and then I hit submit. But right now, our submit doesn't do anything because we haven't added any JavaScript. But the goal of it is to take whatever is here. So Moishe, enter my name, I'd hit submit, and then it should change this text to say Moishe, so that when I click submit, I get to put my name on the card, or whoever is using the website to put their name on the card. And this would be helpful for people to make hospital cards really quickly. Cool. So now that we know what our goal is with the problem, we can dive into trying to make it. So in order to have the button actually run something, we need to have a callback function.
So Moishe, can you show your code, please?
Yeah, sorry. Thanks for the reminder. Cool. So with a function inside the script, we'll add a function, and the function name will be onClick callback. So make sure to have function, you have the function name, and then you also need parentheses and then 2 curly braces. And so then our code will go inside of our curly braces. First thing we need is to figure out which what the element of which element we want to edit. And so in this case, it'll be the name element. We'll call it the name element. and we can use the document dot get element by ID. And here we can type in name. And so what this is doing is it's selling the document, which is just the entirety of this HTML page. It's, to get an element by ID with ID name. And so as you can see, in this case, it is this element right here, H2, which is exactly what we want. We want to change this value right here. So this is the first element we select. And then the second element we can select is the input element. In this case, we can use document dot query selector. So what this is going to do is it's going to find the element using CSS selectors. So in this case, something like input would be just as good, would work. So in this case, we use our ID of the element, which is name. In this case, we use query selector, which is input. Cool. And so then we can figure out what the name, now we want to figure out what it is that the user entered into the input. So we can create a new thing called name, maybe name inputted for clarity. And then we can get input element, which is the element, the input element. And then we can ask it, what is its value? So input element dot value, and this will return the value of the input element. And then finally, we want to change the name element. To do that, we need to do name element dot inner HTML. So inner HTML equals name. And so what this is going to do is it's going to change whatever is inside this element to match name inputted. So it's going to match, it's going to change the inner HTML, the stuff inside the H2, to match whatever we found, whatever we extracted from the input. And so when we save it, before that, we need to somehow link. So right now our button doesn't actually know to call this function. Even though we named it something like this, and maybe somehow our button should be able to figure it out, it does not know what function it should call when the user clicks on something. So we want to add an attribute called on click. And inside here, we can tell it to run the on click callback. And we need to make sure to add parentheses, because that defines it as a function. So when we save it, we can reload our page. Let me share my Chrome. Cool. And so then we can type in our name and hit submit, and it changes it. And we can change it again, Michael, and submit, and it changes it to be Michael. And so that's just a really simple callback function. So I'll switch back here so that everyone can grab my code. The main changes I did was I added this stuff. I added an input and a button, and then I added a script at the bottom to run. So if anyone has any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in chat. Cool. So that's the script. And as Johan mentioned, it is probably a good idea to use an inner text instead of an inner HTML, because if somebody were to put some HTML into here, the HTML would actually be put into here. And so that leaves me open. Oh, sorry, let me share my screen. So if I were to put some HTML into here, for example, an H2 tag, or an some sort of tag, some sort of HTML into here, maybe a script, I'd leave myself open to them kind of infiltrating my web page, and that is not a good idea. So using inner text would ensure that it's just text being placed into this spot right here. Oh yeah. So I changed it from inner HTML to inner text. And so then I'll just add my entirety of code, all the code in case. In the end, I'll just drop the file for everyone. I'll probably add it to the Discord so that anyone can just use it and modify it and play around with it at the end. But for now, we'll try to keep moving since we're kind of behind schedule.
All right, so Moishe has created for you guys, a functioning web page with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. As a recap, HTML brings structure to your web page and provides all the content. CSS helps with the structure, but is mostly styling and making it look beautiful. And JavaScript brings functionality to your website. Now we can move on to some further tools while helping you create websites. One is developer tools on inspect element. You can access it by pressing Command Option I on a Mac or Control Shift I on Windows. On Chrome, you can also go to the three dots in the top right, click More Tools, and go to Developer Tools. And one other way to do it is to press F12. With Developer Tools, you are able to see all the HTML code, the CSS code. You can also view the console, which has logging information. You can see the web requests coming in and out of your web page, and more.
Okay, cool. So real quick, I will just demo the potential of using inspect element and using developer tools. Before that though, feel free to try the shortcuts, but in the meantime, I will add a bit of logging information to help us to work. So in case something isn't working, we can always log or debug our application by using console.log. And then for example, I can log the name element to show up in the browser, and I can also log the input element. And then finally, I can maybe also log, in case somehow I'm not able to retrieve the name correctly, maybe I can also log the name inputted. So now I have 3 log statements, which should appear in my web page when I hit the click callback, when I hit the button and it runs the on-click callback. So I'm just gonna see what's going on my web page. So I'll reload it to get the newest changes. And then now I can also click right click basically anywhere on the page and hit inspect, as you may already know, or I can use the 3 dots and also more tools, developer tools. Cool. And so if you select this elements tab, we can see all of this stuff that we are just writing. Here it's all showing up. So we have our H1, H2, H4, Ps. We have our script at the bottom. And so, yeah, we have all of the content that we just wrote up on the VS Code. And next, we can go over to the console and we can type our name in and we can hit submit, and boom, now we have some logging information to see. So for example, it correctly identified the H2 element, it correctly found the input element, and it correctly showed the name that I inputted. So I can do that again. Michael. You can hit submit, and again, it shows all of the proper elements. So yeah, and there are a bunch of different tabs, but for now, we'll just look at the elements and the console tab because those are kind of the two most typically used ones, I guess, when building an application, when building a web page. And so additionally, in the elements tab, if you pull up this bottom tab, we can look at any sort of styling that we might have. So for example, in our H1, 2, and 4 tags, we have font families that we added. And additionally, if you want to kind of play around with changes, but you don't want to edit your source code, you can also edit CSS and HTML within this developer tools to just get temporary changes. So for example, in element.style, if I want to change the color here, I can set color, and maybe I will set Azure. I don't know what that color is, but apparently it's kind of a white color. So now I've just changed it, changed the color, but if I reload the page, it's going to be gone. So this is just kind of playing around with changes. And maybe if you find a color that you like after some experimentation, maybe I like beige instead. I can copy this over to my VS Code, my Visual Studio Code, or to my actual document that I'm going to be sending to people. So this is so developer tools is really helpful when you're trying to build your application and figure out if something's not working or if something's working well, and move it over to your code. Cool. Going back to the presentation. Oh shoot, we switched tab. Cool.
Once you've created your web page for your hackathon product, you will probably want to publish it for everyone to see. And one easy way to publish it is through GitHub. We will give you instructions on how to do this in our handout after the workshop. Finally, some further resources. This workshop was not a comprehensive workshop on how to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so you will want more resources. W3 Schools is one resource. It is great for learning how to use these languages, and it also has interactive examples, which is really nice. The MDN documentation is an official documentation for everything for web coding, and that's another resource. When you have a question about something, one resource you can use is your hackathon mentor. But another thing you can do is search up your question on Google. You should try it because if you continue programming, you will need this searching skill a lot. While you are creating web pages, oftentimes the top search results will be from W3 Schools or the MDN documentation, which we listed above, or from stackoverflow.com, which is a question and answer type website.
Cool. So that more or less concludes this workshop. We kind of had to rush through the ending part, unfortunately, because we were kind of running behind on time. But we'll add this presentation as well as the handout we mentioned, which is a little bit more, goes a little bit more in detail into the stuff we talked about today, as well as provides all the links for help and the GitHub thing as well for publishing. So we'll add, and as well as the code, the final code. There's a bit of styling that we could have added, I guess, to make it look a little bit nicer. So we'll add the final code file to Discord with the handout and the PowerPoint. So thank you all for coming to our first workshop. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you at some more of our workshops. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now, or you can drop them in Discord later, and we will try to get them answered for you. And I guess if you don't have any questions, yeah, we'll add all the documents and stuff to Discord, and you can feel free to head out. Thank you all for coming.